before we get into the building report, as it were, I want to get your thoughts on something more topical and something about thinking about what gets us into the building. Maybe not necessarily a promo right away, but maybe a personality. So there's always times when a show comes to town and maybe you're on the fence about whether or not you're going to go. You know, we have our significant others who have their favorites. We have our favorites. And every now and then we have that must person that if they're on the card, doesn't matter what else is on there, you're going to be there. For this question I have today is, what are your thoughts on Goldberg joining WWE for a match at, in Atlanta with all the history that means? And is that enough to bring you into the building, to get you into the building, as it were? Greg, I'm going to come to you because you have a very storied history with WCW and the history in WCCW and every predecessor that comes up to what a Goldberg represents for that era of WCW and pro wrestling. So what do you think? What are your thoughts on Goldberg making his return?
So your first question was kind of like, is he enough to get me into the building? Not necessarily, but I am going to be in that building. I will be in State Farm Arena for Saturday night's main event, and I bought the tickets before the rumors even came out that it was going to be Goldberg.
Fair.
But I will say, him being there does make me a little bit more excited. I'm not a big fan, to be honest, of going to Raw, of going to SmackDown, or a Saturday night's main event. I don't really like going to TV tapings because to me, there's a lull, there's commercial breaks and all that, and it's cool to be there, but most of the time I leave, I'm like, man, I'd rather be at a house show. Now, pay-per-views are different, but in this case, because growing up here, in WCW land in Atlanta, huge Georgia fan. I remember Bill when he played for the Dogs.
Go Dogs.
I remember him making the Falcons. I was in the building when he won against Hogan, and I did have a Hogan shirt on. I was not cheering for Bill. That was NWO through and through. Me and about 3 other people in the whole building were the only ones not cheering, I promise you. But that was one of the loudest reactions I've ever heard. So I'm actually looking forward to it because it's nostalgia.
Yes.
And it is, I'm glad it's on Saturday's main event. I know some people are crashing out because of it. I'm glad it's not on Mania. I'm glad it's not on a pay-per-view. I'm glad it's a Saturday's main event. It's a special attraction. It's a one-off. I'm cool with it. And I've always said, and Adrian and I have gone back and forth with this with Brock in the past and with Goldberg in the past and others. I kind of feel like sometimes they can exist over here in their special universe, like special attraction, come in, do your thing, and go. And I feel like that's what this is, especially since they're putting it on Saturday's main event. But I think what's talking me into the building is nostalgia. It's that WCW connection. Before we jumped on here, I said I'm looking forward to it. I will be very disappointed if there's not some WCW references, some type of throwbacks, whether it's a Bischoff in the crowd or a Bischoff is there, or whatever you can do with it. I mean, obviously Sting's with AEW, Shivani's with AEW, but just going down that path, what other connections could we have? The fireworks and all that. I would love to see them even change up the set a little bit to make it a little bit more Nitro-esque. That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be cool.
So I'm going to frame the same question a different way, just out of curiosity. So we're talking about Goldberg because he is the man of the hour. He's the one that he's going to be in the main event against Gunther. Is there that one performer, either nostalgic as you mentioned, or more modern day, that if a show got announced tomorrow, right? We have to move venues, whatever happens, and it's in your area. Who is that one performer that you're gonna go out of your way to see because suddenly they got announced for the card? And I'm gonna say mine for very last.
So I'll tell you what I did last year. So last year, Chattanooga, Tennessee went on sale for a house show, and it was right after Mania, and I was on it. And the main reason is this right here. I was like, I'm going to see Cody. If he don't win this belt, I'm gonna be pissed. But I was like, and obviously this is not this year, but the year before. And I was like, I want to be there. I want to see him. I want to be there live when he shows up, one of his first house shows with the belt. And that was somebody who I enjoyed Cody in AEW. I respected what he did. From that perspective, always liked his dad, but dad doesn't have that much to do with it. I kind of judge them on their own, and I just like what Cody did with WWE, and it was a long story, and he invested me emotionally in that story. And so for me, the crescendo, while he did win, was also me being there in the building at a house show, driving up to Chattanooga, Tennessee to watch.
So as a little appetizer, a little precursor to what we're going to get into with Adrian here with the live report, talk a little bit about that reaction, because you're right. This is one of the first shows off of Mania when, like, what is the crowd like? We always talk about it being a new era in WWE. What did it feel like in the building?
It was interesting. They were there to see Cody, and it was 100%. We had it was some good matches, except for Nia Jax. I remember that was the worst match of the night. But and everybody's like, "Oh God," and she was awful. And my son went with me. He goes, "How does she have a job?" I was like, it was bad. But people were there to see Cody, and I can't tell you the last time I was at a show of any kind. It may have to go back to the Attitude Era where people were there for that one person. They were there for Stone Cold. They were there for The Rock. But they were there for Cody, and people lost their minds. They were
It's like
singing.
going to a Super
Yeah,
Bowl parade.
they were.
Like you want to be a part of that
Yeah,
celebration.
and people didn't leave. Like and I can even say that with Bad Blood too. People did not leave until Cody basically dismissed them. It was like you're the main
Wow.
event, and in Chattanooga, he talked about, it was really cool because the building we were in, it was funny. I was there before for Halloween Havoc with the Chamber of Horrors, but it's the same building, and Cody talked about where he sat as a kid in that same building. He had this conversation afterwards. The whole crowd's just sitting there. It was kind of like until he was done, nobody left. Normally is 1, 2, 3 people gone. It doesn't even matter
Right.
what that
Right.
main event is,
Trying to beat
and
traffic.
they all
Yeah.
just sat there. Every single person. That place was sold out for a house show.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Incredible.
and it was
Wow.
cool.
What a
And
testament.
that's what was fun about it, is because what taught me in the building was Cody, the possibility of him winning the championship at Mania, and then being there, you saw that everybody else was there for the same reason. They sold out of Cody's stuff. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw. Now you can't now, but prior to that, the last time I saw the merch that crowded, that early, and people spending
Yeah.
that much money. It
Yeah.
was like I see
And
people
not cheap.
spend.
Not in the Fanatics era.
No, not at
No,
all. And people
not at
buying,
all.
they weren't buying, like, it was Attitude Era esque. Like, oh, I want that DX shirt, I want that DX shirt, and I want that DX shirt, or I want that Austin shirt and Rock shirt and DX shirt. This was, I want
Yeah.
Cody 1, Cody 2, Cody 3, Cody 4. Like, people were buying 3 and 4 Cody shirts, and it was amazing to me. Like, I was like, holy crap! Because I always like to go to the merch stand. Sometimes I rarely buy anything because you get better
Yeah.
deals on WWE Shop or AEW Shop or
Right.
whatever.
True.
But when I like to stand there and see what people are buying, because you get caught up in that
Wow.
emotion. But I also don't want
Yeah.
to spend $45 for a shirt when I can go online and buy it for 30.
I
That's
know.
it.
You really have to
Free
work at
shipping.
tempering that FOMO. Like, oh gosh, I can get it
Yes.
right now.
But
Oh
that's where they
man.
catch you, bro. That's where they catch you. You get the Atlanta Nightmare, or you get the AJ Styles. I have the AJ
Yeah.
Styles shirt that was red and black, had Georgia Bulldog stuff on it. And they
Yep.
have
I
the
definitely got that one.
Hawks themed shirts and the Braves themed shirts that you can only get there. So
Although with that Cena shirt, they're smart because they're putting them all online now. So
yeah.
even the themed ones, right? That's a solid man. That's a great answer, and yeah, it just solidifies what a that's. I mean that 2 year run. It's just an all timer,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
regardless of what happens in the future, like that's nobody can take that away from them. It's
definitely.
insane. Adrian, I'm gonna come at you. So you're in Atlanta. You have the same story history. You were
Yeah.
you watched the come up of a Goldberg and even the WWE Goldberg. Um, does it inspire you to be actively in the building if Goldberg is there? And what's your motivation with seeing him back on TV?
Absolutely. I don't get how wrestling fans really bug out about the fact that he doesn't have long matches. He's old and all of these reasons. The entrance alone,
Hmm.
the chants alone, you gotta be in the building to be a part of that chanting Goldberg,
Mm-hmm.
Goldberg with that music playing. Once you see the entrance and all of that, true, the match may not be the longest, but it is what it is. You know, that's always been the case with Bill Goldberg. Like Greg said, I'm a diehard Georgia Bulldog fan. Everyone knows that. Bill Goldberg, even though I'm also a diehard Bret Hart fan, I still like Goldberg. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Like I don't care. I don't care because Goldberg was like an event. It was always a special event. It was always a big fight feel. And you know, what was that? Mania back in Orlando that we went to. That match with him and Brock was one of my favorite events that happened or explosions that happened because it was so much that went on before the bell even rang. Like it was finisher, spear, F5, spear, F5, and then the bell rang. And then it was a short, quick match. And people fall. I don't know, man. People are weird. They look, well, he only wrestled 6 minutes here and 6 minutes there. Yeah, but that entrance alone, how excited were you while watching that entrance? How excited were you once you saw that pyro going off and him punching and growling and him blowing the smoke out of his nose? Little stuff like that makes him a legend. And if you don't agree with me, then you're just sadly mistaken, bro. You're missing the script of pro wrestling. You forget about watching pro wrestling as a kid and falling into, man, these guys are larger than life superheroes. Bill Goldberg was a superhero.
Yeah.
Make no mistake about it. I could care less of his in-ring work and all that. I could care less, man. That entrance alone is 5 stars. I'm sorry, IWC. That entrance alone, being in the building and chanting and seeing this dude spear the hell out of whoever was in front of him, that and a jackhammer, that alone, that's worth it. That's worth the price of admission in my book. So
fair.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked Greg then, but I am gonna put a little caveat on it for you. Is there that one wrestler, past, present, current, whatever you might be, that no matter what else is on the card, if they're on the card, you're gonna buy a ticket tomorrow? You can't say Bret Hart.
No, I know. I'm gonna give you my second best, Brock Lesnar. If Brock is announced, and I know that he has something that's worth showing up for, I'm there. You tell that music. I guess I'm a entrance mark. I don't know, but when that Brock Lesnar music hits, it gets something out of me. I don't know. I'm like the Brock Lesnar guy. You know that, like you get hyped, bro. Yeah. So it's definitely Brock. Like they announced something right now that Brock Lesnar is going to be. Right now, we're filming at 10 p.m. If they say, hey, Brock Lesnar is going to be at center stage at 1 a.m., I'm there. Whatever. Cool. I'm there. I may pick up Greg on the way there. I don't know. You know, like I'm showing up for Brock Lesnar. He's must-see TV. In my opinion, he's the last true superstar in pro wrestling for me.
There's 2 guys that my dad likes, and because we saw him live at a Hell in a Cell, it's Undertaker and Brock, because he said they really look like they're beating up each other.
Yep.
I'm like, well, they might be. Great answers. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because, and I think what the common thread here within all these are superstars, right? These are, even if you take them out of an avenue of pro wrestling, if you see him out in the crowd, if you see Cody out in a suit, he looks like somebody. If you see Brock, suit or not, or jeans or not, he looks like something.
It's like a mutant,
right? He's like, you're from a different world here.
I think one thing about Brock to me is the way you said he's the last great superstar. I think about him as the last great attraction, because he is an attraction, and that's how I feel like the way they even used him for the most part, except for that long run with the belt, was as an attraction.
Definitely.
And that what him and Goldberg did for their little program, I don't care what anybody says, that was a magical program.
Heck yeah.
That was storytelling 101 with short matches, with two guys who busted their butts to get in shape that didn't need to have long matches.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, in Orlando, that was, to me, one of the matches of the night.
It was insane to watch, man. It was a true spectacle.
Yeah.
Like, it was the definition of spectacle.
Right on. Yeah, I just hope he doesn't get concussed. That's all. That's all.
Also,
Agreed.
don't hit his head
Again.
on the door.
Don't hit a door. Don't hit the door on your way out. Mine's easy. It's got to be Rock. I mean, we're lucky in LA because he's always doing something around here, and he'll like, I'll go to Staples or wherever they're doing the show.
If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and of course, look us up on socials at Suplex Dinner Club. And be sure to check out our other projects. We talk college football on Dogs versus All Y'all. That's a weekly college football podcast where we don't just talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. We talk about all things college football. The Life and Times Pod, which is short for the Life and Times of a Restaurant Lifer podcast, where I have some chill conversations with some cool and interesting people that I've met in my years in the hospitality industry. And of course, check out Talk 'em in the Building. That's a pro wrestling podcast where we solely focus on the promo. We talk about the talkers, we hype the hype man, and we pontificate on the promo. It's a fun project, and if you're a pro wrestling fan, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. If you're into TV and movie reviews, check out Four Corners Cinema with Ari and Adrian, a podcast where two lifelong pro wrestling fans review film and other forms of media that just so happen to have some of our favorite pro wrestlers. The Suplex Dinner Club family is growing, and I would love for you to be a part of it.